Now we'll go on to our next speaker. So our next speaker is Keyria Rodgers. And Dr. Rodgers has dedicated her time and her experience and decades of experience in youth justice work in government and academia across Central Illinois. Her research interests include criminal justice, social justice, restorative justice, diversion, probation, reentry, and community-based programs. And she also has trained multiple government and nonprofit organizations on these topics. To date, she has written grants and managed over $4.9 million in various types of funds for government and community-based programming to support school districts, criminal courts, diversion projects, and community-based programs in Decatur, Illinois. Dr. Rodgers, welcome. We have a couple questions that we wanted to ask you, but before that happens, I just wanted to ask you if you had anything else you wanted to add just about your work and your experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you can all hear me okay, and I hope I'm not going to stay this blurry. Let's see if we can fix this. But first of all, I appreciate this whole entire event and how you are putting everything on the way you are. This is so encouraging, and it's just amazing to see this come to fruition the way that it has. And so just a little bit more about myself. Thank you for the intro, by the way. But yeah, the work is constantly changing. It's not, I don't think we could ever really say that we've gotten to a point where we figured it out completely, because we haven't. So the work is constantly changing. And I think what's best for us is that we keep moving. We figure out what works for, our individual areas, and we figure out what works for the state and for the country, and then we just move forward. It's a responsibility that we have to think about what's happening in policy and practice and how we merge these things to create a better environment for all of us. So I think that's, it's just always a work in progress.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Dr. Rodgers. I think that is a really great point. That everything is forever changing, and with the changes that are continuously happening, I know that services change as well. So the first question I want to ask you was just what are the type of services that youth in Central Illinois need, and what do you think are the gaps that currently exist in our current system?
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so first and foremost, this isn't a matter of rocket science to figure out what people need, right? We just have to listen. We have to pay attention to what it is that people actually say they need. So we talk about educating people, about like the legal history, of course, and what all these different things mean in a very complicated criminal justice system. But more importantly, we need to make sure we're focusing on educating, people even just in school and as they're progressing, as young people are, completing their high school and GEDs and college, everything. We need to make sure we focus on those things too, but also focusing on family, education, substance abuse, mental health. Let me just make that point very, very clear, because I work with a lot of college students and they will tell you how important it is right now, even for them in the time of the pandemic, just focusing on mental health. And they have made a fuss that if they don't feel like there's if there's not a lot of services on campus, they will say that, So I really think it's important to hear them out about these things as well, because let's be real, even the adults and that have been around for, a long time, they also are feeling it. I mean, this pandemic has basically kicked all of our butts, right? So, but also too, we need to make sure we're focusing on, leisure activities, recreation, as you've heard a couple of times today. I couldn't agree more. And so we also need to make sure that we have a focus on programs that actually build, self-efficacy, but also too, self-sufficiency. So those are, some of the things that are very near and dear to my heart personally, but also too, as you heard the previous speaker, he talked about the aftercare. I can't stress enough how important that is, because I think a lot of times in the criminal justice system, we've basically we would have these programs that we would create, and then it's great, when somebody gets through the program, but then what, right? What kind of long-term supports do we have? If the grants run out, there's not enough to continue with those supports, right? So we need to make sure that as a community, it's on us to find ways to continue to support each other. We cannot expect for, the grants or even the government to do everything, because they've never been able to do everything. At some point, the community has to step up and say, this is what we want, and here's how we're going to do it, right? So, it's again, work in progress.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Dr. Rogers, for spinning some of those gems. I love the point you made about just really giving them full round services, not just focusing on the education, but the mental health and everything wrapped around it. And the second question I had that kind of correlates to that is just how do you see the importance of like family support and providing services to young people, and how does that play a role?
Very good question. And again, I'll repeat what some of my colleagues, what my students, as well as young people that I've worked with in the diversion programs, here's what they said. They said that, the family support is very critical because the families are struggling too. And we might have a program that focuses on one or two people. Okay, that's great. But what do we do about the whole entire family, the whole entire environment, right? And no, we don't have, the capacity to fix every single issue, but we also have a duty not to overlook things. And so in this particular instance, when we talk about, supporting a family, the parents, even when you meet with their kids and they're actually, coming through a program, you might find sometimes that the parents can't stay quiet because they need help too, and they will voice that. And who are we to tell them that we don't have, services for them or blah, blah, blah. That's a disservice to anybody. So we need to make sure that in terms of supporting the family, that we're able to assess what it is that everybody is saying they need, not what we think they need. There's a difference between those two things.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. That's an amazing point. And to kind of round out, our conversation, I wanted to ask you just, what issues do you see youth struggling with that could be addressed through restorative justice and restorative justice practices?
One of the biggest issues that I've noticed over the years for not even just the youth, but their families, their siblings, their friends, their peers, there is a huge distrust in the criminal justice system, or even people that are somewhat associated with the system. They often say, what is it that you really think? Like I'm not feeling this. Like they will say that. And I will give you an example of a teen court program that I used to work with. We've now changed the philosophy of that entire program because it was still way too punitive. But basically the kids have told me when we used to try to do recruiting, and some of these people that work with me, they're on this call today. So they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But like we used to have instances where we would try to recruit, to have other young people to work in this program and try to help their peers, right? But we had this booth that was set up, and the booth actually said teen court at the top. And then I would notice that the kids would walk right by it. And I'm like, wait a minute now, I've got candy out here, I've got brownies, what is going on? And so I used to go and sit and talk to the youth at the tables. It was during lunchtime at their schools. So I would go and pull up a chair. I need to know what's going on. Why are you walking by this booth with all that candy I just paid for? Right? So they said, we see the word court up there. That ain't for us. That ain't for us. I'm like, I got it. So I took a lot of experiences from actually listening to the people that I was trying to market to, but also listening to the people that were working with me. And so we actually call it now teen justice. And we focus on more than, just criminal offenses. And it's been great to see the growth of this program, and also too, how we incorporate restorative justice, because in the previous, version of the program and all these other things, no one ever talked about healing. No one ever talked about what it's like to actually have a voice in the room and to feel appreciated, but also to feel that you can make a difference. Nobody talked about that. And honestly, that is what we do in our programs. All of them, actually, that's what we do. And we find ways to make sure that we are hearing from the young people. We're hearing from the program directors. We're hearing from the people, the staff, because yes, the staff are important too. They get burnt out as well. So we need to make sure we're focusing on them. And then we hear from, like I said, the participants, and sometimes they bring their friends because they're like, we don't know if you'll take them, but our friends are having issues. We're like, bring them in. Let's talk about it. So that's, and it happens more than we anticipated. So we're in a position now where we need to start thinking about hiring more people, because we don't want people to be stretched so thin that they don't have time to devote to each family they see. So we have work to do still. But I know that even for people who aren't necessarily going through a program necessarily, they also have this lack of trust. Um, Whether it's just with a system in particular, whether they feel that people are really just trying um, to use them to get grant funds and things like that. You know what I mean? These are all real concerns that people have voiced, and so it's great to again have these opportunities to be able to provide people with opportunities to really think about that.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Rogers. In the words you said, you use two key words that I heard, and it's listening and healing. And
Mhm.
I think that it is important that we listen. We really listen to the young people and their fears and what they feel that they need, because we can't create solutions without their voice.
Exactly.
And then in the process of healing, that is the end goal, not punishing young people for their mistakes, but really in the process of healing. So thank you so much, Dr. Rogers, for your work. As you said, there's a lot of work to go, but you doing the work that you are doing now is a start, and it is helping to launch a change. So thank
Thank
you so much, Dr. Rogers.